So this is your second time at US in Progress. So as you were talking, I think there was a conference, and you were part of a sit-in conference talking about the experience of US in Progress. You get a larger sense of your actual needs for a project at the post phase, and as a first-time filmmaker and a second-time, third-time filmmaker, it's different mindsets, right?
Completely.
Like so that's the thing, is you come here on your first go, and you think you're in need of everything, but here you have very precise needs. So I just wanted to get a sense of, is the post-production, coloring, the sound recording, stuff like that, is that something that as a filmmaker, a lot of first-time filmmakers just don't have that in their mindsets in a way? Is it like abstract on some level?
I think I'm going to tap into my first time where my mindset was, you're aware of it, and I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I think in a general sense you understand there's more to making a film than just filming it. So you understand that you need post, that you need the sound, color, and score. But there was something that I didn't understand and I didn't know, albeit I had a heads up about it because I participated in the Gotham Labs that same year. So there was sort of like a distribution and post-production workshop where they talked about things, but all of those things are foreign. You're hearing new names and concepts for the first time, and you don't understand how you're going to apply those things, but you're taking in all this information. So I came to US in Progress with a little bit of that knowledge, but I didn't realize what I really needed until I got it, which is, it's so interesting because now I know exactly what I need and I'm going for that. So I'm so grateful that the thing that I needed for my project was the thing that I got, was the grant that was received by Fix a Film and Soundflower. And that is finishing. That is what I guess most first-time filmmakers are not necessarily thinking about, because you don't deal with it in shorts, because you don't have to create these kind of deliverables for shorts, even if you made 5 shorts, which is your DCP, generally saying. I mean, you do kind of consider DCP, but just the multitude of deliverables within like a feature film and the different types, the HD, the ProRes, and different things like that. There's more requirements for the feature than there is for the short. Fix a Film had that whole package, and they sort of just led the way because they're industry professionals. And I was just like, all right, I'll just follow. Oh, what do you need? Okay, yeah. And I never was missing or lacking anything throughout the festival process.
So we are live at the US in Progress of the American Film Festival in Poland. I'm speaking with filmmaker Edson Jean. I was wondering about the connective tissues between Ludi and Nomi. Besides the idea of perhaps community and how community gets isolated in a way in a different fixture, different land, what are some of how are these two films potentially speaking to one another?
Well, I think in general, okay, so my main objective as a filmmaker, let's start with that, right? Because that's going to be the through line throughout my work, at least for the foreseeable future, is to authentically represent and shine a light on the underrepresented Haitian and Haitian American diaspora, right? So in that mission, it's clearly addressing an isolation of a people, right? So the fact that you brought up isolation, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that's what's happening without me trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna really focus on these themes. It sort of happens as a product of the mission. So there are those connections. Right now, it's also similar because there's connections that it's pulled from real life. Like Ludi was inspired by my mom's early years as an immigrant. More fictitious in how I explored and created the narrative. Nomi more follows the actual events a lot more closely. So I feel like there's probably a lot more that, when I think about what are the threads that connect these two films, even if I haven't thought of it that way. But I guess it's coming from, like, I'm just this vessel for these ideas to come in and go through. So through that, let's say, tool or apparatus of like the mission, they become somehow like they have a relationship together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just entering my stream of consciousness, but I was at TIFF. I saw a movie called Mountains, or The Mountain.
Mountains.
Yeah, and I was flabbergasted by the fact that I was just not aware of. I mean, where I'm from, there's a huge Haitian population. I'm from Montreal, right?
Okay, yeah.
So, but in the States, I imagine that's where the flux, the bigger immigration would be in the place that's closest to physically Haiti. So, would you say there's a potential movement coming out of that state, out of all places in the U.S., or is just?
You know, it's something that I thought, but I tried to not ever say it publicly because I feel like my perspective is limited, and I might feel like that because I live there.
Yeah.
But I've actually heard a lot of other filmmakers that were here today be like, yo, Miami, you guys are doing a lot. So people are starting to notice the projects that are coming out of Miami, the voices that are coming out of Miami. I strongly believe that it's sort of like this geographical relationship to the Caribbean. Like I've always seen Florida as sort of like this hand that extends itself out from the States to the Caribbean. And so you have this mesh of cultures and tradition, and naturally, if given the opportunity, you would have these unique stories to come from there. So I know the creators of Mountain, the editor on Mountain is also the editor on my film. So there's like this cross collaboration that happens a lot in Miami, and we all just love and support each other. So it's this idea of like lifting each other up to tell these stories. But it's not just magic as well. And I think I definitely have to mention the support, because most of these films are finding the support from an organization, an art support organization in Miami. That, because, you know, without the money, without the support, you know, it's not like the public funding in Europe, for example.
It's a big fat zero. It's a big fat zero.
So we don't have that here. So to have an organization like Ulai Arts with part funded Mountains, funded Ludi, didn't fund Nomi, but they got me started so I can make my next film. So, you know, it's all those things coming together in a sort of serendipitous way.
So here you're connecting, there's connective tissues to an actual real physical event, a real person. There must be a lot of tricky, I don't want to say legal aspects, but there's a lot of tricky aspects to borrowing or encasing or enveloping your narrative with something that's very much true, that was part of the headlines as you demonstrated from the onset. I just want to get a sense of what that process is like when you're considering pulling from that and then personalizing it, and then thinking about how the community is reflected in media. Media is very much disposable. I like to think of news stories as like disposable plastic. You know, you go to Starbucks, that cup
and
gets thrown away,
and the next one the next day.
Exactly, and media don't care about day two. And here, a film like this cares about day two and probably cares about day 90.
Even beyond.
Yeah.
Well, it's before, you know, right before legal, it was always personal. And it was personal because it was a very close friend of mine. So when this all was happening, we were involved with it, right? We weren't thinking of this to be, we weren't thinking of art. We weren't thinking, we were just experiencing it, existing at this time. And then we also had time away from it. Like, he moved away, like reflecting on it. So there was like different moments in time where different moments in time in relationship to the time, the event, the way the news handled the story. So that was the priority, is like the real people first.
Yeah.
Was like, how are we going to honor and respect the people involved, the relationships that are involved with the story. And I feel like once we found a place where we were in line, he was in line, the other parts of the family and different things like that, the legal things fall into place.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it's a lot more fragile to deal with people, to you know, and that was a big thing for me, like wanting to honor that and having several conversations with myself and with Mark and Sin, who the story is by, about like, should we do this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because there's conversations about mental health and awareness in that space, and where you do want to now take hold of a narrative that was taken away from you from powers like the media, you still now are inviting risk by opening it up again.
Of course.
So
of course.
It is, but we think it's worth it. We feel like
oh, there's a huge conversation to be had.
Yeah.
But now you're going to amplify a story like this. I think it'll resonate with a lot of people. I like the idea of stripping down artifice and getting to the core of who a person might be and how it'll affect the community. And I'm going to a larger question, but like, what are your hopes for a film like this? How do you, what kind of an engagement do you want to have, or conversation that you want to have with future audiences?
A big thing is just to reintroduce a new conversation.
Yeah.
The advantage we have with this film is that a large population has a touch point with it. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah, was that the thing?
Yeah.
You know? So that is, I see that as an invitation. I see that as someone who probably, if this was a film that didn't have that reach, that international sort of like exposure the first time, someone might not pay attention, might not show up to the theater. But now that it's something that it's like, oh yeah, I remember, let me see what that was about. It gives us an opportunity to now take hold of a narrative or like reintroduce a new conversation. I'm not going to say we're going to change the narrative. That's a very difficult and like, I don't know, a very egotistical thing to say, but we can create a new conversation. And I think that's the most invaluable thing with a story like this, because there are so many conversations that are stripped from people, regardless of whether they're from the marginalized immigrant population or whether they're just someone who's sensationalized from a news event.
It's so true. It's taken away from them.
Yeah, and we're seeing that in different stories, like the reality winner, for example. You know, like, that was a big event. Now we're, who's the person behind it? And we're starting to value and remember that there are humans behind these like 24 character headlines or whatever the case is.
Yes.
So we're just trying to reintroduce, and it's an overused term, but we mean it literally when we say to rehumanize or to humanize. Because in this case, the character of Jimmy and the person Rudy was literally demonized, and them calling him a zombie and like not thinking of him as a human being. So that is there's opportunity there for someone who's now, it was like, oh yeah, that story, you give them a chance to be like, oh no, it's this story now. So that's a really cool opportunity.
I really like that. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to seeing the finished product.
Appreciate you.
Thank
Eric.
you.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.